Look at this number. It counts the exact number of seconds that have elapsed since a specific Tuesday in 1970. This single climbing integer is the underlying pulse keeping time for water pumps in your city, switching relays in the power grid, and ATMs on your block. But digital storage has physical constraints. This count is stored as a 32-bit integer, meaning there is a strict mathematical ceiling to how high this number can climb, and it is running out of room. On January 19, 2038, at 0314 UTC, that container reaches its absolute maximum capacity. At that exact second, the sequence shatters, rolling over to a massive negative value. To the machines, the year instantly becomes 1901. 2038 represents a hard physical limit we have silently built into the foundation of modern civilization. To understand why this boundary exists, we have to look at the physical limitations of early computing. At places like Bell Labs in the 1970s, memory was scarce and engineers had to fight for every single byte of space. Early operating systems needed a way to track time without draining those limited resources. The compromise was Unix time, a system that recorded the date by counting 1-second ticks starting from 1970, storing that tally in a compact 32-bit register. 1970 was picked out of convenience. It was a recent round year. The developers knew a 32-bit limit would eventually run out in 68 years, but they assumed the hardware architecture would be entirely replaced long before the clock ran out of digits. The greatest vulnerability in modern tech is a temporary pragmatic shortcut from the 70s that was blindly copied into billions of future devices. Unlike modern cloud software that updates in seconds, the industrial world relies on a layer of technology that is far harder to reach. This is the world of embedded firmware. These are microcontrollers buried inside water treatment flow sensors, marine navigation units, and building fire suppression systems. They have no Wi-Fi connections, no network stacks, and no way to receive an update. To protect them from heat, moisture, and vibration, these chips are entombed in solid epoxy resin. They are physically fossilized inside the machinery they operate. Fixing the 2038 bug in these systems requires locating the sensor, ripping it out of the machinery, and replacing it by hand. Millions of these chips exist, but no central registry tracks where they are buried. The true threat of 2038 is the discovery that we cannot patch the physical world. People assume 2038 is a future event. In reality, these systemic crashes began quietly over a decade ago. Any system that projects states forward in time hits the barrier early. When a server calculates a future deadline, the math reaches ahead, collides with the 32-bit limit, and collapses. We saw the scale of this problem in 2006. The AOL server network crashed because a piece of software attempted to set a timeout calculation far into the future. It hit the 2038 limit, rolled over to a negative number, and the entire network collapsed. Since then, 30-year mortgage amortization tables, long-term bond maturities, and pension algorithms have quietly thrown overflow errors. Individual engineers have been patching these failures one by one, writing undocumented workarounds that never reach the public. 2038 is an architectural limit that systems have been actively crashing into, and engineers have been silently band-aiding for years. Society largely dismissed Y2K as a hoax because the grid stayed on. We survived the date, and that survival created a false sense of security. We mistook Y2K for the main event, overlooking the fact that it was a superficial dress rehearsal for a much deeper structural problem we never addressed. When we zoom out from 2038, the broader nature of our digital infrastructure becomes visible. The most durable structures in our modern world are the unexamined defaults that were hardened into permanence by immense scale. We are living inside an architecture of accidents. The 2038 countdown is a receipt, proof that our infrastructure is simply an accumulation of temporary decisions that became permanent because nobody went back to fix them.